What's up, guys? Mudar, Truger Development. COVID and real estate values. If you're like me, you're wondering what's the aftermath going to look like with the real estate market with this damn COVID situation that we got going on. So I think we're, I don't know, at least in the United States, we're, I don't know, a month and a half or so into it. Don't quote me on that, but we're going into April, and we don't know what this is going to do to real estate. So far, we know that everything is on a standstill. I don't think anybody's out there buying property. I don't think realtors are listing property unless they can do a visual tour of the property, which means the property has to be vacant. A lot of complications, of course. So if you're like me, you're wondering, well, how is this going to look once we get out of this thing? Because we will. This is a virus, and it's going to go away. It's seasonal, and hopefully we develop vaccines and all that good stuff. Anyways, so I'm going to share with you my thought on it. I lived through the 2008 recession, which is of course different in a lot of ways, in my opinion, than what we got with this recession that we have going on right now. And I've been doing real estate for over 20 years. So I have a lot of experience in it, but also I've lived through one of the recessions, so maybe I could shed some light on it. And honestly, this is me thinking out loud. I hope it helps you in kind of planning where you want to be during this COVID situation and after. So the best or easiest way to look at it is to compare, the best and easiest way to figure out perhaps what's going to be the aftermath effect of this is to look at the last recession, 2008. And that's when the real estate market crashed because of the lending practices that were going on then. If you were during that time, and if you recall, if you were during that time in real estate and you recall, anybody was able to get money. Money was so cheap and readily available. If you had a pulse, you'll get money. And so what happened was real estate prices were inflated, and they were rapidly inflating. And so that created a big bubble in the real estate industry, and it came to a head and it crashed. And of course, coupled with the mortgage lending practices that were going on then, so it collapsed the whole thing. So looking back then, I think in that particular situation, it was mainly focused, it wasn't global, it was just a United States issue. This was just here in the United States. And B, it was real estate related. So it directly impacted the real estate values and all real estate practices thereafter. In fact, for years, the mortgage industry tightened up, and there were a lot of regulations. It was extremely difficult to get money. So in that sense, it was different. However, eventually prices did level out, and we did see increases in prices, and things started to get rosy again up until, of course, this situation. So let's look at what was going on before COVID. Before COVID, we had extremely good demand in the real estate market because of the employment rates were very high, and the supply of real estate was, I think, just meeting that demand. In fact, if not, it was less than the demand. So supply was still tight, and mortgage rates were low. So we had three factors. You had low supply, or supply that was just enough to meet the demand that was extremely high, as well as mortgage rates that were historic lows. So let's compare that to what I think is going to be the case in the aftermath. Now, of course, this is all contingent on how long we stay in this situation, in this lockdown, where the economy is just pretty much at a standstill. So like I said, we're going into April. If we come out of this by end of April or sometime in May, where the economy opens up, I think this is how I envision it. Supply is still going to be extremely low because developers are not going to go into the market just yet, because probably at least 6 months after this virus is considered over, I don't think many developers, if any, are going to be willing to go back into the market and produce at the same rate that they wanted to prior to. For the simple fact, labor costs might be different. The supply chain has been interrupted. 2/3 of the supplies that we use here are produced elsewhere, mainly China, and we know that they've been impacted by this. And a lot of other products like finishing products, tubs, plumbing supplies, electrical supplies, all that other stuff that is needed to actually finish a home. So supply is not going to move. In fact, I think it's going to take a while, maybe 12 months or so aftermath, for it to start happening again, which is, again, good for real estate value. So if your supply is going to be extremely low, demand is going to be low, because a lot of people after this, especially those who have lost their job, are not going to be willing to go into the market and take on debt. Even if the rate for that mortgage is extremely low, it's still debt that you're taking on. And if you're unsure about your job situation, then you're not going to take that on. However, buying property is a necessity. If somebody is, during this time, is in a transition period, meaning they sold their home, now they're going to rent for some time, they know they're going to go back into the market and purchase a property. If somebody's social environment is different, and now they have a child or two and they need to buy a house. If someone actually got a job and they're guaranteed their salary, then they're going to want to buy a home. So buying a home is a necessity. Developing a home, if you're a developer and if you're in this uncertain circumstance, even after the COVID is declared over, is not a necessity, in a sense that you want to make sure your business is not going to lose money, so you're not going to build. So there's a difference there. People are still going to look for property, which again helps in maintaining property values. Interest rates, of course, are the lowest that they're ever been, and I think they're going to continue to be that way for at least another 2 years. So I don't think it's all that bad if we come out of this thing sometime in May, and hopefully no longer. I think the longer this takes, it's going to have a much deeper impact on real estate. But if things, if we come out of it early enough, I think the real estate values may be impacted slightly. I think if they're not impacted, they're going to remain where they are, because you're still going to have some demand. Supply is going to be contracted completely, and then your interest rates are going to be low. So I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. At least that's how I'm looking at it. And as a real estate investor, of course, I don't want to see the value of my properties go down. So this is a good thing. And hey, just wanted to share this with you. Hopefully, that you can see the positives in this. And I'll follow up with another video, and after the fact, and see how things are doing. If you agree with me, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, if you see it a different way, I would love to read your comment. So go ahead and put a comment in there. All right, see you guys on the next one.